This is one of those rare moments you can actually mark, not just feel. March 20th, 2026, 1446 UTC. That's the exact minute the March Equinox lands, and NASA even spells it out. Most people will scroll past that moment like it's nothing. But if you've been feeling a weird pressure building, less patience for noise, less tolerance for fake conversations, less interest in keeping things smooth, you're not imagining it. You're picking up on a threshold before it arrives. And here's the part nobody tells you. The equinox isn't a whole day. It's one instant, one pivot. And after that instant, you'll start noticing what you've been tolerating just to avoid change. I'm not here to tell you the sky controls your life. I'm here to remind you that certain moments make it harder to keep living unconsciously. An equinox is the moment the center of the sun crosses the plane of Earth's equator. That's the real definition. It's not a vibe, it's geometry. After the March equinox, the sun's path keeps drifting north day by day until the June solstice. A single instant changes the direction of the light. And direction matters, even when you aren't thinking about it. You can feel it in your body when the season changes. You can feel it in your attention when the year pivots. Whether you call it spiritual or psychological doesn't matter. The pivot still happens. Here's what I've learned about thresholds like this. They don't demand belief. They just reveal patterns. If you've been moving on autopilot, you'll notice the autopilot glitching. If you've been forcing something to fit, you'll notice the force. If you've been ignoring a truth because it's inconvenient, you'll notice how tired that convenience has made you. And the reason it feels massive is because it doesn't stay in one corner of your life. It spreads. It starts in small moments and then shows up everywhere, like light creeping across a room. Not dramatic, just unavoidable. Also, let me clear up one thing right now, because it matters for credibility and it matters for your sanity. People say equinox means equal day and equal night, and that's the myth everyone repeats, but it's not perfectly equal. NASA points out that day and night aren't precisely the same length on the equinox because the sun is a disk, not a single point of light, and because Earth's atmosphere bends sunlight near the horizon. Earth sky explains the same idea simply. You usually get a bit more daylight than darkness, even on the day that's supposed to be perfectly balanced. I like that detail because it's honest. Balance in real life is rarely a flawless split. It's almost, and the difference is where the truth hides. So if you're waiting for a clean, perfect sign, something that removes all doubt, you might not get that. What you'll get is subtler. You'll get a shift in your reactions. You'll get a pause before you respond. You'll get a slightly sharper awareness of your own habits. And if you've been outgrowing something, you'll feel it more clearly without having a dramatic reason. That can feel unsettling at first, because your mind wants a story. It wants a headline. But your life doesn't always change in headlines. Sometimes it changes in tiny, repeated moments where you finally stop betraying yourself in the same small way. You might notice it at night first. It's 2:17 a.m. You wake up for no real reason and your first instinct is to reach for your phone. You unlock it, scroll for a second, and then something in you feels tired in a new way. Not sleepy, tired of the pattern. You put it down, you stare at the ceiling. You're not anxious, exactly. You just feel like you can't numb out the same way you used to. Or you're in the middle of a conversation and you catch yourself about to say the thing you always say. The automatic reassurance, the automatic joke, the automatic, it's fine. And then you don't. Not because you're trying to be deep, because it suddenly feels dishonest to keep filling the space with habits. This is one of the first signs of the shift. You become less performative without trying. You're still present in your life. You're still showing up. You're still kind, still involved, still available when it matters. But you stop doing the extra. You stop padding your words. You stop volunteering your energy to keep everyone comfortable. And when you do speak, it lands differently. It's cleaner. It's more direct. Sometimes it's quieter. You're not pulling away from people. You're pulling away from automatic reactions. And when awareness replaces autopilot, routines start to feel deliberate. Not hard, just deliberate. You notice what you're doing while you're doing it. You notice how you spend your morning. You notice which habits are actually helping you and which ones are just familiar. You notice how often you say yes out of habit. You notice how often you keep plans you don't even want. You don't suddenly become better. You become present. That's a different thing. Presence makes certain patterns feel heavier because now you can feel them while they're happening. I want to be careful here because I'm not claiming the equinox causes every sensation you might be experiencing. Life is complicated. Stress is real. Sleep changes. Work changes. Health changes. But transitions, real transitions, do tend to make you notice what you were ignoring. And if you've felt fatigue followed by sudden focus, or restlessness followed by unusual clarity, it may simply be that your attention is rearranging itself. When you stop living unconsciously, your energy stops leaking in the same places. At first, that can feel like discomfort. Later, it feels like relief. This equinox doesn't demand that you isolate or disappear. In fact, it often does the opposite. It makes you more aware of what you're actually doing inside your relationships. You'll be at a kitchen counter, or in a car, or at work, listening to someone talk, and you'll realize you're only half there. Not because you don't care, because you can feel the mismatch. The conversation is happening, but the connection isn't. And you might smile and nod and be polite, but internally, something shifts. You realize you've been participating in certain dynamics out of habit, not alignment. That realization can be quiet, but it's powerful. It's the moment you stop confusing familiarity with fit. And this is where things start to separate, not on the outside, but on the inside. People experience this moment in two very different ways. One group feels resistance and can't explain why. They feel irritated. They feel stuck. They feel like something is off. They keep reaching for the old version of themselves because it's stable, and stability feels safe. But the stability is outdated. It's expired. And holding on to what has already expired turns the present into friction. The more you grip, the more uncomfortable the now becomes. The other group doesn't have everything solved either. They're not perfect. They don't have some magical level of awareness. They just loosen their grip. Maybe slowly, maybe imperfectly. But they stop forcing something that doesn't fit. They stop stabilizing what's naturally moving. And because they do that, the same moment feels like space instead of pressure. Not excitement, necessarily. Space. Breathing room. A quiet sense of, I don't have to keep doing this the way I've been doing it. If you're thinking, I don't know which group I am, you're probably both, depending on the part of your life. You might be letting go in one area and gripping in another. That's normal. This isn't a test you pass once. It's a pattern you become aware of. And the moment you admit, even privately, this doesn't fit me anymore, you've already started to shift. You don't have to know what comes next. You just have to stop pretending the old thing still works. Something else begins to happen as the equinox approaches. You lose the ability to sit comfortably in contradictions. Before, you could carry two opposing directions and stay in the middle. You could say you want peace but still chase chaos. You could say you want growth but keep choosing comfort. You could keep options open and call it being flexible. Now the middle space starts to feel tight. Not because you're being forced, because you're becoming too aware to keep living split. Indecision stops feeling neutral. It starts feeling expensive. You'll notice it in small choices. You get invited somewhere, and you want to say yes out of habit, but your body doesn't feel like it's telling the truth. You hesitate, not because you're confused, because you're aware, or you're writing a message to someone, and you're about to soften it, dilute it, make it easier for them to accept. And then you stop. You realize you've been editing yourself for other people's comfort. You erase the extra words. You keep it simple. Your nervous system exhales. That's not aggression. That's alignment. I don't think clarity always feels good at first. Sometimes it feels like losing a cushion you didn't realize you were leaning on. Sometimes it feels like boredom, because you're no longer entertained by the same distractions. Sometimes it feels like loneliness, because you can't connect in the same shallow ways anymore. But that doesn't mean something is wrong. It means you're moving out of a phase where you could numb yourself into staying the same. This is also when you start sensing outcomes sooner. Again, not in a mystical way, in an honest way. You've seen your patterns. You've seen how certain choices end. And the shift is that you stop pretending you don't know. Responsibility enters the room. Not heavy responsibility, clean responsibility. If you keep choosing the same thing, you're choosing the same result. And once you see that, repeating the choice starts to feel like self-betrayal. That's why this can feel like pressure, even if your life looks normal. It's not the sky pushing you around. It's your own honesty becoming louder. You can still do what you've always done, but it won't feel automatic anymore. It will feel like a decision. And when something becomes a decision, you can't hide behind, "I didn't know." You can still make mistakes, but you can't pretend you're asleep. Now let's talk about relationships, because this is where the shift becomes visible without drama. People don't necessarily vanish. Things don't necessarily explode. But the overlap starts shrinking. Conversations that used to flow start feeling like work. Not because anyone did something terrible, because you're no longer fueled by the same things. You might still care about someone and still realize you can't keep meeting them in the same place. That's a mature kind of separation, quiet divergence, the kind that makes you feel a little strange because there's no villain, there's no event to point to. It's just that you're moving in a new direction, and the old paths don't cross as often. If you're used to being the one who carries the emotional weight of a room, this is where it gets uncomfortable, because you'll start noticing how many connections were built on you being flexible, you being available, you being the one who says, "It's fine." And when you stop doing that automatically, the dynamic has to reveal itself. Some people will adjust and respect you more. Some people will pull away, not because you did something wrong, because you changed the agreement. There's a gentler way to handle this than cutting everyone off or making big speeches. You don't need to announce your growth. You just need to stop abandoning yourself. That might mean you reply slower. You stop over-explaining. You decline invitations you don't want without making up a story. You let silences exist. You let other people carry their own emotions instead of rushing in to fix them. And at first, it can feel selfish because you're not used to valuing your energy. But it's not selfish. It's maturity. People who respect you won't punish you for being clear. People who only benefited from you being small might. If you've been waiting for your life to open, this is the part most people don't understand. Openings often begin as endings, not dramatic endings, small endings. An old way of responding ends. An old tolerance ends. An old internal negotiation ends. And when those quiet endings happen, space appears. Space can feel empty at first, but space is where momentum is born. Not the frantic kind, the real kind, the kind you can sustain. And yes, I know it's tempting to make this moment sound cosmic and overwhelming, but I'd rather keep it grounded. The equinox is a single instant. It's a worldwide event. It can fall on March 19th, 20th, or 21st, depending on the year. But in 2026, it lands on March 20th, and the point is the same. It marks a directional change in the light. Time and Date describes it as the moment the sun crosses the celestial equator from south to north. That's the astronomy. The human part is what you do with the direction change inside you. So, when March 20th arrives, don't look for fireworks. Look for honesty. Look for the moment you catch yourself about to say yes to something you don't mean, and you pause. Look for the moment you realize you've been tolerating a pattern that quietly disrespects you, and your body refuses to cooperate. Look for the moment you feel the urge to numb out, and you choose presence instead. Those are the moments that build the shift. That's how it arrives, not as a miracle, as a series of small, clean choices. Here's what I want you to do with that, and I'm going to say it simply. You don't need a huge plan. You need one real move. One. Within 24 hours of the equinox moment, do something small that matches the truth you already know. If you need to set a boundary, set it. If you need to send a message, send it. If you need to stop keeping a door cracked open, just in case, close it gently and fully. If you need to start something you keep postponing, start it badly. But start it. Don't wait for perfection. Even the equinox isn't the perfect equality people imagine. It's close. It's a threshold. And thresholds are meant to be crossed. If you're afraid you'll do it wrong, you're not alone. But fear isn't proof you shouldn't move. Sometimes fear is proof that you're close to a life you can't fake. And if you've been feeling that inner pressure, that enough feeling, that sense that you can't keep living on half-truths, then you're already on the edge of the shift you've been waiting for. You don't need to force it. You just need to stop resisting what's clearly changing. I'm here to remind you of something simple. You don't need a dramatic moment to become a different person. You need one honest decision, followed by one honest action. That's how direction changes. That's how seasons change. That's how your life changes. And if this message found you at the right time, let it be a mirror, not just something you listen to. Pay attention to what has been tightening inside you lately. Pay attention to what drains you now that didn't drain you before. Pay attention to the places where you keep returning, even though you already know the ending. That's where the shift is close. That's where the equinox will feel loud, even if the day looks quiet. March 20th is close, and if you can feel it already, that might be the clearest sign you're not meant to ignore yourself this time.